Distinguished guests, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our partners, our sponsors, our supporters and our speakers, I'd like to welcome you here to the Guildhall for the 9th Annual City Week.
We may be leaving the EU, but the UK remains very firmly in Europe.
The fact of the matter is that London isn't a European financial hub, it's a global financial hub, and we must never forget that.
City Week is a unique gathering held once a year in London. It brings together very senior executives from financial institutions from across the world to address some of the key issues facing the boardrooms of those institutions, wherever they may be based, not just in the UK or in Europe, but from across the world.
More than 10 years have passed since the global financial crisis triggered a comprehensive regulatory reform process. Many important measures have been put in place since then. The title of the next panel discussion therefore raises a very pertinent question for global regulators. Where next?
It's a very wide-ranging set of insights across dynamics I'm sure a lot of us will recognise.
And I would say with respect to innovation, the City of London has been a key driver of innovation in financial services.
This is the first time I've attended City Week, and I've been very impressed actually by the range of people that I've spoken to here. And also coming from the climate community, I'm very much struck by the level of interest in climate-related issues. And in the first 10 minutes after I came off my panel, I already had half a dozen different connections in the financial services sector to talk to and take forward. So I think the networking opportunities, the quality of the people here is really impressive.
The fintech revolution, green finance, a much greater emphasis on responsible and sustainable investment. And I think London is extremely well positioned globally on all those three areas.
86% of the revenue that is generated at Lloyd's of London comes from outside the UK.
One of the important things here is that the EU cannot see its capital markets as a closed circuit.
So I was really proud to be invited to be a patron again this year, but also we were very keen to sponsor and really understand a little bit more about the broad network that this opportunity offers us as an organisation. And I have to say we've been really pleased by what we found.
The most ideal outcome, and the outcome no doubt everybody here would like, is that we can establish a relationship with the EU, but establish a relationship with the EU in a way that doesn't prevent us playing an important part in that broader global system.
But I'm convinced that when the dust settles, the City of London will do what it always does, which is to emerge fitter, stronger, and more dynamic than ever.
Well, this is my third year at City Week, and I think I come back year after year because it's an incredibly diverse audience, very interesting and quite relaxed conversation, but I think really homing in on the big risks and opportunities for the sector.
Actually, the geopolitical risks are playing out now and having big and volatile impacts on markets.
Well, I think this space of regulating the derivatives market on a cross-border global basis is something that is going to be with us in a challenge for the foreseeable future. And I think the more that we can, as regulators, come together and speak together about it in public settings and in conferences like City Week, the more it will hold us accountable for unanticipated consequences of any of our regulatory actions.
Other areas where we have been concerned around pricing issues, cost issues, is in the area of credit rating agencies and the fees charged by credit rating agencies.
But actually, there are very big numbers involved. I mean, we're probably in the UK, people are spending something like $4 billion a year just on regulatory reporting.
So today I've been chairing a panel of global regulators. We had representatives from ESMA, from the CFTC in the States, from the FCA, some other national regulators too. It's a great opportunity to pull those people together and actually challenge them on what's on their agenda.
City Week's really progressed over the years, if I'm honest. Here in the Guildhall, you couldn't find a bigger, smarter place to hold it in the City of London. So I'm really impressed actually by both the speakers that you're getting coming along and also the crowd that I've seen so far.
The most immediate and significant challenges within European Monetary Union is to reinforce the integration of the banking sector and the capital markets.
Banks cannot hold 30 or 40 years an infrastructure project on the balance sheet. If you can securitize it and there is somebody buying it, you can do it. Otherwise, banks cannot be part of the solution.
But all governments agree on there should be more investment. They all agree.
In principle, Europe has a debt-based accounting, a debt-based corporate legislation, and a debt-based everything. It's cheaper to borrow than to raise equity.
So I'm going to talk about the future of world trade, the future of the World Trade Organization, and the impact that much of the current trade conflict and uncertainty around things like Brexit might mean for global trade in the coming years.
Because of Stable London, and the Steel Weeks is very famous, and of course Stable London is one of the best, prestigious the financial city, and that city is now organized this forum.
What has changed is perhaps the values that this new generation coming into the workforce are going to expect from employment.
Increasingly, when you look at the latest generations of people coming into the workforce, they do look at the reputation of organisations, of sectors. Corporate social responsibility are big topics to these younger people.
Qingdao is among the first group of cities designated for local economic and trade cooperation, selected by Chinese and UK government in the Golden Era.
The aspects of City Week I found most interesting are usually the way in which opinion formers are generously sharing their opinions, and I think that helps move the dialogue in challenging times positively forward.
This is my second City Week that I've personally done, and it's growing in size every year, and the quality of the speakers, the quality of the audience is improving every year.
As everyone here is well aware, the financial and related professional services industry is deep into dealing with the challenges of Brexit, but has not lost sight of the opportunities.
Because as we realise increasingly how the world is being impacted by climate-related events, and there is such a need for the financial sector globally to come up with responses.
Which is that, of course, in every industry, you say, well, you want as little fragmentation as possible, you want as much homogeneity, and there's a cost and the risk associated with that.
We need to fix the roof while the sun is shining and ensure that the euro continues to be a source of stability.
City Week gets better every year. It's very well organised, it's very well run, the attendance keeps going up and up and up, the number of interesting people keeps expanding, and this year has been a fabulous conference, and everyone I've been to in the past has also been excellent. The key thing about City Week, to my mind, is the quality of the people, the quality of the discussion, the quality of the thinking that's gone into framing the various sessions and discussions.
Our ambition for France and Europe remain very strong. We'll keep reforming at home, and we'll keep pioneering innovation at the heart of Europe.
We found this very attractive because it's combined, a lot of different dialogue from the regulation to the business environment, innovation, challenges, and solutions. Very complementary conversation here.
But there's also a lot of fear around AI, and I think the sort of fear of an idea of a general intelligence is often sort of mixed up with practical applications where we're solving real-world problems.
This is my first time in City Week, but I shall be coming back. I've enjoyed it this morning. I particularly enjoy mixing with the people in between the sessions. You meet a whole bunch of interesting and very diverse people here.
On the
law enforcement side, one thing that has happened is the establishment of the agency IHED, National Economic Crime Centre.
And if the penalties aren't high enough, then I don't see any abatement in anyone pursuing financial crime.
Well, KPMG are the platinum sponsors of City Week 2019. It's a flagship event for London and for financial services, and that's really important that we're part of that.
Listening to the speakers, to the panels, you realise, the challenges that the industry is facing, counterpart regulators, European regulators, how they are looking at the future and the challenges ahead. So it was quite an informative and fruitful presence, for sure.
Well, I've been on a number of years in succession, and this was a slightly odd year in the sense that we're kind of between a lot of developments in the UK. We don't yet know what's going to happen on Brexit.
So until we don't have any people in our businesses, we are going to have to accept a degree of vulnerability, and I think that's just something we need to accept. So we will never work in a world where we don't have incidents.
We have now clearly got a stronger framework and way of thinking about these issues. It's less unknown than it felt 5 years ago, and I would also say that the arrival within the Financial Services Authority's framework of the National Cybersecurity Centre has been a really very significant step forward for us.
The issue is that we really do need to shift gears and find a way to funnel capital investment into projects around the globe.
I think that one of the skills that you guys have when you organise it is that you make sure that there are people on panels who will have a dialogue. So it's not just sort of a presentation of what the rule is or what the issue is, there's actually a real dialogue between the panellists.
I think one of the areas you have to focus on with management and leadership training is you need to understand the dynamics of your team.
Much more difficult than before. I was Prime Minister, I was Foreign Minister. I remember in the 80s, 90s, I was working in the European Council with Margaret Thatcher, with John Major, with Jacques Delors, with Helmut Kohl, and now everybody says, oh, these were great leaders. Come on, it was much easier, much easier. The pressure of the media was nothing comparable to today. It was much simpler. We were 12 countries.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. I think the level and the quality of the speakers and the topics that have come up have been really interesting. I think the fact that the agenda is really focused on topics about society and not just on core investing and how it ties together has been really interesting.
I arrived this morning. I think the way that Guildhall is such a marvellous location. I think it's been extremely well managed, I have to say. It's always well managed. I go to conferences all over the world, and the way that we stick to our timetables and the quality of speakers and everything's been first class. So yeah, I've really enjoyed today so far.
I'm going to be moderating the financial crime panel, so that is a pretty hot topic in the UK and worldwide. We have speakers from the leading UK agencies, as well as from the US, the Department of Justice, and KPMG. And other private firms as well, so it should be a very interesting panel.
I'm really impressed for the quality, how well organized is the event, and also by the presence of so many distinguished speakers and a variety of very interesting topics.
In our area around culture, there's some really great things that we can actually share with our clients and help them learn from this experience as well. We were lucky enough that some of our clients have attended today, but also it's great that we can take that learning back to them. And I think as Wharton Business Consulting, we are about people and about that continual development. So it's really to our hearts to make sure everyone gains from this.
I think in terms of City Week particularly, it stands out from other events because it brings a different group of people together. In all of the years that I've been part of this event, the speakers have been of hugely high quality, the debates have been good, but there's also a really good opportunity to network with your peers. And I think for me personally and for my colleagues who were here yesterday, I know that they were introduced to people that otherwise they would not have met. And I think that's the real secret of City Week.